And then I started having debates with pro-abortion professors at Westmont College via emails. And I went, oh my goodness, what is the state of Christian evangelicalism? So what are your thoughts on all of that? I'm sure there's a lot we can talk about there. But as someone who's been contending in that sphere for a while, where do you see are the issues? What would you say to my experience? And what do we need to do to save Christian higher education?
Well, my first reaction is I'm not surprised. Tell me something I don't know. I'm a huge fan of a liberal arts institution. I'm even a bigger fan of a liberal arts institution that's grounded in a biblical worldview and unapologetically so.
Amen.
And by biblical worldview, I mean a biblical worldview, one that embraces the Bible as being the inerrant, infallible, authoritative Word of God. It's true, with a capital T. It is our anchor. It is our true north. Back to your point about what happens to the Christian colleges and what happens to the church over time. I think the answer is the pathology of the intellect. In fact, a man from the West Coast that you may know, Graham Walker, who was my provost at Oklahoma Wesleyan University when I was first hired back in 2002, and then later became the president of Patrick Henry University, wrote an excellent paper that he presented at the Oklahoma Wesleyan University Chapel while I was president. He titled it The Pathology of the Intellect. And in a nutshell, what Graham said is that the academy, the ivory tower, colleges and universities are prone to the sickness of the mind. Arrogance, snobbery, chronological snobbery. The character in The Great Divorce that C.S. Lewis describes when he challenges that character and said, when did we ever write any original essays? We just jumped into the current of popularity and rode it along. We rode the stream along because we wanted to get good grades. That's intellectual arrogance. That's the pathology of the intellect. Smart people think they're smarter than anyone else around them. And frankly, ultimately, they declare themselves to be smarter than God. That's the nature of the beast for colleges and universities. It's a story that's a broken record. It repeats itself over and over again. The Apostle Paul refers to it in Romans, where he says we're given over to the reprobate mind. Why? Because we start worshiping the God that we see in the mirror more so than the God we see in the Bible. We commit the original sin over and over again. We declare ourselves to be as God, and we don't need anybody else to tell us what's right or wrong, good or evil, up or down, black or white, or even male or female, or what's living or what's dead, to get into one of your key issues. That's the nature of the beast. And the only thing that corrects that is humility before the cross, as opposed to this arrogance of the mind, the pathology of the intellect. So what's happened at the academy? We have a tendency to elevate ourselves. You hire a bunch of smart people. They think they know everything, when indeed they're probably experts in one discipline and one discipline alone. But you can't tell them that because they are gifted intellectually. So, in fact, I won't bore you with this, Seth, but I actually did my dissertation at Michigan State University on this very issue. The definition of evangelical Christianity and how it was slipping, and how Christian colleges and universities were guilty of false advertising. They weren't telling their customers the truth. And my premise was at Spring Arbor University, where I worked at the time, my alma mater. I knew that we had nice four-color brochures that talked about evangelical Christian education. I knew parents expected to get something specific when they paid for that for their children, and I knew that students expected to get something specific. Evangelical meant something. So my question in my dissertation was, what does that mean in the mind of the consumer, and is the college actually giving the consumer that? And the conclusion to my research was, no, we were lying. We were guilty of false advertising.